What's going on, folks? Here we are at week 7. Me and Coach were just talking about consistency here, and check it out. Week 7, you got some videos to kind of look
Yeah.
at. You know what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
you're studying for that cloud practitioner, go back to week 1. If you're jumping on now into the AI practitioner, you got to start in week 5 and look at us. We're at week 7, Coach. I'm so excited about this. I'm so excited about this.
Yeah, I can't even believe it myself, but
Yeah.
yeah, I love the fact that you tagged me along on this, and I'm excited about it. Right, I wasn't sure at first if we got it, but I'm loving what we're doing. I'm getting some good feedback, and we're here for the people, so I'm loving it.
Absolutely, Coach. All right, so I guess we'll jump right into it, folks. Just to brush you up, though, before we hit this article that we're going to look at, we're going to look at a Forbes article, and I thought it was really nice, and I'm going to pull up the screen here, and it's just going to be focused right on the exam guide first. Just super quick, I won't stay here a long time. Basically, I wanted to show you all that, you know what, task statement 2.2 of this exam is dealing with understanding some capabilities, right? And some limitations of generative AI. So we just want to hang out a small amount of time today to just discuss that a little bit. So we'll go into some personal discussions around that. A couple of things I want to point out here is like this word that says hallucinations, non-determinism. It's all going to be a part of some article that Forbes released in 2024. Thought it was a great way to tackle task statement 2.2 here. So let's jump right over into it. And this article is understanding the limitations of generative AI. And Coach, I don't know about you, but when I started studying around Gen AI, I realized that personas are needed, different foundation models are needed based on their good use cases, because everything is not available for every situation, right? There are going to be some limits or some limitations around what you're building with Gen AI. And let's just scroll down this thing a little bit and we'll hit the first topic. I think this initial paragraph here, if you do yourself, click the link that's going to be in the post and read through, it just talks about the idea around generative AI and how it's a branch of artificial intelligence, and it should be getting you some new outcomes and not just looking at some probabilities and predictions ML will do for you. And as I scroll down a little bit more, we hit that first, I would call, challenge, right? When you start dealing with generative AI, non-determinism. And just from a short definition perspective, right? Just in my own words, there might be an opportunity for you to say, hey, I want a particular output, but every time that I give some particular input, I can't get to an exact output, right? I can't get that exact right thing that I'm looking for. Every time that I put some different input into this foundation model, it's just all over the place. And I need to be a little bit more
unpredictable, right? Unpredictable. There we go.
Yeah, all over the place. And so I can think about some little bit of unpredictability myself, Coach. Imagine being able to input your, and this goes back to personas, maybe it's the healthcare persona that you might be creating an application around. And maybe you're creating an application that says, hey, I want you to be able to put your symptoms into this application. And as you enter those symptoms, this foundation model should give you an output. Maybe you put in the symptoms that you got a fever of 101, I don't know, you got a persistent cough and fatigue. And you're probably already saying yourself, if I just Google that, if I just put that in my search engine, I probably get a lot of, right? A lot of diagnosis, right? Not a diagnosis. Those outputs might come out at you in many different ways. You might have COVID-19. It might be a common cough. It might be the flu, right? So that's not really deterministic, right? If I have a foundation model just giving me all of those outputs, maybe I want to tackle that with some good way of doing that. And I don't know, Coach, have you considered a scenario yourself where you're like, but it's just, I'm just getting all kind of stuff coming from this person, right? Maybe you're talking to somebody and they're just give you all kind of outputs. You're like, what are you actually talking about?
Right? And for me, I would take it back to the financial sector. Yeah. And the reason for that, and where I think about security, maybe as an example here of where I want my model to be able to determine things around how well the stock market is going to do, or how well a portfolio is going to do, or how well any parameters that I give it is going to do based upon what my business need may be. And my own personal business need is what I mean by that, my family need or something along those lines. Yeah. And this is where what I love about AI in general, and we're talking about Gen AI today, but what I love is the ability to create and see and do something or have an output that hasn't been generated yet. And so this is sometimes also where we think about, for me, from a security perspective, is where the guarantees. Well, there really isn't no guarantee. There's not a guarantee, but we can get close to something. We'll talk a little bit throughout the conversations here about things like automated reasoning. We were talking about that earlier before we jumped on here, but where we come back to the qualities of where we want some form or fashion of close to accuracy, or as close as we can get to something. We want it to be predictable results, because when we think about enterprise scale businesses or even small businesses, we want some sense of accuracy. We want some sense of a guarantee. And this also reminds me back into how SageMaker allows us, or AWS SageMaker AI specifically allows us to be able to discuss or reference back model cards, right? And when we think about, and I said in the last video that we did around what are model cards, or what are cards, or what are LLMs, right? And so again, and I said AWS SageMaker, I meant Amazon SageMaker, correct me there. But along those lines is where we come back to what is the descriptive mechanisms of this particular model that I'm going to use. As you said, that every model, every LLM does something different, right? There's different reasons of why we would choose a Claude versus, or what's the other one any other one that comes off the top of my head. And so where I'm going with this is, again, is about around the predictability of it. So from a business perspective, but even from an individual perspective, I want some close to accuracy as I possibly can get.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Invite those model cards is a great example, Coach. You get a chance to say, hey, what were the outputs? What were the features? Maybe I fine-tuned this thing. It just gives me all of the information about the model. And it makes me think of something else, like a way in which we could possibly solve it. You got this model and it's saying here are a bunch of different outputs. Maybe that creativity is just too wide, right? As a parameter. And so what you get to do is you get to say, hey, there is a parameter that I may be able to change on the foundation model. Maybe in this scenario that we were talking about, like maybe temperature, right? Maybe we don't want to be so creative, but I'm giving you specific symptoms and I want you to zero in on a response, right? Maybe I'll set that temperature to 0. And if you're studying for the exam, this is a parameter of the foundation model that you want to get familiar with. It's going you're going to have questions about temperature and what that relates to your outputs. 0 is super concise. Closer to 1, more creativity. So there's going to be a number that you set between 0 and 1. So yeah, absolutely. Non-determinism, folks. Non-determinism.